me just get out of here. So today we've got the African Safari Collective who are going to do presentation on the various of their properties. So I believe I'm going to hand over to Doug, who's going to do it first. First off, Doug, if you can do the introductions and share with everybody, and then we'll go from there. Thank you. Thank you.
Just
Thank you. I'm
remember
mute.
to unmute yourself, Doug.
Because I think I was sharing the screen and it looks like it might be cutting out. But let me restart. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for making the time for us. So obviously, our little property is Fugitive's Drift, nestled in the battlefield region of KwaZulu-Natal, and I suppose we might as well begin the presentation. So let me do the thing, and if I'm going to start the thing, and if someone could just let me know if, because I can't see you now, if the audio is coming through.
Yes, all good and well.
Ah,
You can continue.
fantastic, thank you. So as you can see, we have giraffe. So the Fugitive Drift is nestled in its own little game reserve. We obviously can't compete with Leopard Mountain because we don't have the big five and we don't actually do game drives. So the lodge itself is our sort of flagship property out of 3 on the property. The lodge itself has 10 rooms. Obviously, the commanding views over the battlefields. Well, not quite the battlefields; they're in the distance, but looking out over the game reserve itself, and very well appointed. Lots of hiding holes for the guests to go and find a bit of peace and quiet, and very, very comfortably done. This is, of course, the main deck of the lodge itself, with a few little bits and pieces. Those 3 photos, some of the game reserve, the on-site museum, which obviously focuses on the Anglo-Zulu War and the tragedy thereof, and of course a little picture of the rooms. So it's all very family style. We sit with the guests for dinner and lunch. If they want their own separate tables, they're more than welcome to them. But lots of gardens and sort of very comfortable, quiet, and certainly encourages contemplation on the stories that they hear. The lodge was redone just before COVID, and we think quite tastefully. And the brief that the architect was given, what was more of a threat than a brief, along the lines of, if you rip the heart and soul out of this place and replace it with a minibar, there will be anger. And he took that brief and ran with it. So there's a certain atmosphere at Fugitive Drift that encourages peace and reconciliation and contemplation. The rooms themselves are very well appointed. The mosquito nets are not there because we have a lot of mosquitoes. The mosquito nets are there for aesthetic reasons because they look nice. And I think we have about 7 mosquitoes on the entire property during summer. The property itself is at just over 1,000 meters above sea level, so we don't have the pestilential plagues in the summer. So very nicely done. Then there's the guest house itself, which has also undergone quite a major facelift. We just need to update the photographs so that these photographs aren't exactly true to form. Both the lodge and the guest house rooms all come air conditioned, so that's not a problem. But the guest house is a lot more simple, a lot more rustic. Where the lodge has 10 rooms, the guest house has 6. It's absolutely perfect for sole use families, or traveling groups who are traveling together. And it's on the plain itself, so it's not on the side of the mountain like the lodges. It's you get a lot more out of Africa feel from the guest house. The guest house is one of the original buildings on the property. It was the old Potgieter farm and trading store, which has been sort of redone to be a hospitality venture. The rooms are, of course, the difference between the lodge and the guest house is reflected in the rate. where the lodge has, the museum, the Harvard Library, palatial gardens, and lots of places to hide away. The guest house is a lot more intimate, and out on the game reserve itself. So you see the herds of animals coming past the fence. Both the lodge and the guest house are fenced out, not for security. It's to stop the animals coming into the garden and drinking from the swimming pool and destroying my mother's nasturtiums. She's quite territorial about them. And also, you don't want to come around the corner and there's a wildebeest between you and your room. Again, we're not big five, so the animals aren't dangerous, but it just makes looking after the place a bit easier. The rooms themselves, more of a colonial feel to them, very comfortable, obviously all en suite, and yeah, lovely place to rest and relax. It's funnily enough, amongst the staff here, our favorite of the two camps, just because it is quieter, smaller, and less busy. Then on the top of the hill, we have George Bunting's old farmhouse, beautiful stone building. And George Bunting, incidentally, was the first of the storytellers on the Anglo-Zulu War. He was a beef farmer by trade, and my late father would spend the holidays in this little house, dragged kicking and screaming onto the battlefields. And George, rather famously, at the same dining room table that's there today, would tell these stories to people from all over the world who came to hear them. And while he was telling the stories, he would pick up a fork and clean his fingernails. And obviously, being a beef farmer, there was a significant amount of cleaning to be done. And once he'd cleaned all his fingernails, then he would take a serviette and then polish said fork. And my father would tell the story that he would frantically try and rack his brain to remember every nugget of information that George shared around that dining room table, but all he could remember is focusing on that fork and trying to memorize every scratch, hoping like hell he didn't get it for breakfast the next morning. Standards have changed since then. We no longer use forks for cleaning fingernails, you'll be glad to know. But the farmhouse was redone by Graham Viney out of Cape Town, who some of you may well know specializes in restoring old colonial buildings. And he took the brief and ran with it. It is absolutely fantastic. There's 3 rooms in Umziniati House itself, all very comfortably done and wonderfully commanding views over the game reserve. And it can be done on a self-catering basis and a catered basis, with the guests coming down to either the lodge or the guest house to have their meals. And probably the best coffee spot to watch the sunrise, as you can see in that bottom middle photo. The rooms themselves, again, he took the brief and ran with it, and did it very, very nicely. A lot of antique furniture, very, very old school. Then, of course, the game reserve itself, and let's not forget the Harvard Library. The Harvard Library is located at the lodge, and it's a very, very nice and lunch venue for our guests looking out over the Buffalo River. That gives you an idea of the views that they have. Isandlwana, only 5 miles away, just out of the left of the photo. And that's probably one of the most utilized buildings by the guests. Obviously, there's a healthy collection of books there detailing the tumultuous history of this country. And you can often find the guests sitting there whiling away a morning or an afternoon, gazing out over the Buffalo River, watching the fish eagles soar. The battlefields itself, obviously, that is our bread and butter. That's what we're known for, taking people to this magnificent place, Isandlwana. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the story, this is where Britain would suffer their greatest defeat in their entire colonial history, at the hands of Ntshengwayo Magole Khoza and his warriors. It is arguably one of the greatest examples of command and control in military history, and we've dedicated the last 30 years to trying to change the understanding of this battle. This was no British blunder, British defeat. The Eurocentric view of history, of trying to find a way, an excuse as to how we lost the battle. Rather, our narrative is the Zulus won this battle. This was a great Zulu victory, and it was won at appalling cost and supreme sacrifice. And that is our understanding of it, the human tragedy of it. And it's not a dry history lesson that we give you. We try to immerse you into the real human element of the story. Um, Extraordinary leadership, self-sacrifice, and the human tragedy of it. And under each one of the piles of white stones that punctuate that battlefield, of which there are hundreds, lie the bodies of 8 British soldiers and about 8 Zulu warriors apiece. Enemies in death, but enemies in life, but equals in death. And I think it's befitting that they lie buried together on that battlefield. It's regarded as one of the most unspoiled battlefields in the world, and I think a testament to South Africa that we have preserved it. And long may that last. The guiding team is obviously myself, Mpiwe Ntansi, whose grandfather and great-grandfather both participated in these battles, and then Brian Mncube and Mark Stewartson. And as you can see, that battlefield just lends itself to the high drama of these stories. And then, of course, Rorke's Drift, where a band of 139 British soldiers, many of whom sick and disabled, managed to hold out for 12 hours against 4,500 Zulus. It is one of the more famous battles in British military history. And pre-COVID, about 22,000 people a year came to walk these battlefields. Regrettably, all largely foreign nationals. The South Africans are quite bad at exploring our own backyard and our own history. The gentleman that you see in the bottom left photograph there, that is the commanding officer of the Royal Welsh, the descendant regiment that fought at Isandlwana and Rorke's Drift. And every year they send out about 30 serving soldiers to join the Zulu royal family in the commemorations of Isandlwana and Rorke's Drift. It is one of the most extraordinary relationships where the Royal Welsh were invited to attend the coronation of King Misuzulu. They were invited to attend the funeral of Prince Buthelezi. They've hosted the previous Zulu monarch and the current Zulu monarch on multiple occasions in the United Kingdom, and have been hosted at Ulundi. It sort of defies logic how these two opposing forces can now join each other in friendship every year. And the Royal Welsh are planning on sending out 150 serving soldiers, band, colours and colour party, to salute the Zulu monarch on the battlefield of Isandlwana for the 150th commemorations of the battle. And that'll be in 2029. And rather confusingly, we are pretty much already full for 2029, and we haven't even published the rates yet. People still want to come out and see these places, which is absolutely extraordinary. The game reserve itself, as we said, a soft game reserve, so no big and scaries. Lots of giraffe, zebras, impala, wildebeest, kudu, and nyala. The animals here aren't hunted by man or beast, and so as a result, you would be forgiven for thinking that they're tame, but they are not. You cannot touch them. Well, you can touch them, but only once and not for very long. And we encourage our guests to go walking through the game reserve at their leisure. We've got marked trails that go throughout the game reserve to the high points and the viewpoints. And the animals sort of gaze at you with alacrity. They don't run away. They just sort of stare at you rather blankly. As we always say to the guests, they don't like you, they don't dislike you, they nothing you. You're just a thing in the bush. We're becoming increasingly popular with the continental market, particularly with the Dutch and the Belgians, who come to us specifically for the walking, and they just spend their days moseying around the game reserve, sitting on cliff tops and looking at animals, which is fantastic. The geography and topography of this game reserve is spectacular. We're a listed natural heritage site on account of our geology, and a cultural heritage site because of the Fugitive Drift and the graves of Melville and Coghill. I do need to update this map. I know that I'm going to get a message from Adrene shortly, but this is just to give you an idea of where we are. Obviously, if you look at the top right of Lesotho, you'll see Three Tree Hill at Spear and Kop, and then between us and Three Tree Hill, there's the Nambiti Game Reserve, and then obviously Fugitive Drift just on the bottom right of that little cannon. And then you'll see Leopard Mountain up in the top right. And so you can see that little circular route through KwaZulu-Natal We share a lot of guests between us, Three Trees, and Leopard Mountain, which hopefully you'll be sending more. And that, of course, concludes my little presentation. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I'm happy to take any queries and questions.
Thank you, Doug. What a wonderful presentation. Got us all invested there. And I think you're so right. There's so many South Africans that have not even ventured into that region of South Africa. And yeah, you live in a wonderful place. So thank you for that. I'm sure there must be some questions. Does anyone have any questions for Doug?
I see Johnson Naidu has his hand up. Do I need to unmute him or can he unmute himself?
I think he can unmute himself. Johnson, can you unmute
Uh,
yourself? There we go.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a beautiful history lesson, absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And we had a lot to learn about. And firstly, I want to ask two questions. Main thing centers around security. We are so finicky these days about security, and especially, venturing into that part of the world. How is it for security for tourism?
So that's a very pertinent question. Certainly given South Africa's international reputation with regards to that. So just in terms of KwaZulu-Natal itself, the rather famous General Mkhwanazi has reduced, I think it's violent crime in KwaZulu-Natal by 25%. The police are really cracking down rather significantly. On a more micro level, our area, our local police station is very proactive. There's also very strong community protection associations. They're both informal and formal, and that's between the informal farmers and the official farmers unions. Very proactive and very, very good. There's camera systems on all the dirt roads. I think many of you have seen those little camera systems that they scan your number plate instantaneously and alert the authorities if your vehicle is on any database for any nefarious activities. Coming then onto the farm itself, we've got an armed anti-poaching unit that patrol the property every day, and at random times, and all the vantage points. And so we do take our security very, very seriously and somewhat humorlessly. So yeah, we're pretty confident in where we are and the area in which we are. You may have seen that the Dundee featured in the news recently because the traffic police arrested a former mayor for drunk driving, along with close on 50 other people. So the police in this area are becoming rather humorless in terms of their enforcement of the law, safety, and security. So it's never been. I don't think it's ever been better, quite frankly. Yeah, I hope that answers the question and allies some fear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Just sort of one last thing. If I know that it's becoming increasingly important for our visitors to South Africa to know that where they're going makes a difference in the local area. I don't like showing photos of it because children aren't there for, and certainly in my opinion, for plastering over a presentation. But if any of you do want to have a look at what we do in terms of community outreach, if you look up the David Rattray Foundation and or Kula Education, and just to give you the fast numbers there, we look after 21 and support 21 local government schools. It's about 6,500 children. We've built and run 5 preschools and 3 skills development centers. And in terms of the hard numbers there, the pass rate has increased by just over 40% and university attendance up by 32%. The skills development centers are for the kids who, and adults, it must be said, who didn't get a university pass and fall through that gap between secondary and tertiary education, and their sort of learnerships and artisanal skills that get taught to them, and they get certified in, and at least they have a chance of entering the job market. So that's where we focus on. Again, not being a big 5 game reserve, our conservation efforts are limited to a 2,500 hectare game reserve, 17 kilometers of river frontage. Leopards are starting to make their way back. Honey badgers are back on the property, which is bizarre considering they were considered extinct south of the Buffalo River. But it's quite cool to see them. As you all know, nothing can stop a honey badger. They haven't bothered reading the CITES reports. They go where they want. The guinea fowls, warthogs, all sorts of things are piling in, which is fantastic. And yes, that concludes me.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks for that. And then I'm going to hand over to Ederine. Ederine, sorry, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. And I have made you host, so you're welcome to take over from Doug. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm Audrey. That's how you pronounce it. And I am happy to present Leopard Mountain to you today. Let me just get all of the settings right for the sharing. Share. There we go. You should all be able to see my screen.
Yes,
with
we
Leopard
can.
Mountain.
We can.
Amazing. So we do have Melissa, who's the general manager at Leopard Mountain. She's on the call as well. So you're welcome to ask questions and so on as we go along. I'll keep an eye on the chat box, or if you want to raise your hand, please do. I really like answering questions while we're on the slide, so that if I need to explain anything, I can do that. So just a quick video to give you the feel for Leopard Mountain, and then we'll go into a bit more information. Right. So I'm sure that gives you a good idea of what to expect when you're going to Leopard Mountain. So Leopard Mountain is a big five-star, multi-award winning luxury family run lodge in the Manyoni Private Game Reserve, and they are fully solar powered. Now this view that you see here would be the view from your rooms and from the main deck. Location-wise, they are sort of in the center of the Manyoni Private Game Reserve. which is a private game reserve, meaning as guests come to the lodge, only the vehicles of the properties in the reserve are allowed to do game drives in there. So there are no private vehicles permitted to do game drives in this reserve. Just heading back to the location. So they're about 3.5 hours away from King Shaka International Airport, 2.5 from Richards Bay, and 1.5 from Phinda. Now they can arrange transfers to those locations for you if you do require it. And just to give you a better idea, so as you know, the airport's more or less here, and this is then between Umhlanga to Leopard Mountain is right up there, and then there's Fugitive's Drift Lodge. Now, I recently did a session with a couple of overseas agents as well, where the guests they weren't sure how to move from Fugitives to Leopard Mountain. I know some of them took the road up here, and Doug and Mel, you're welcome to interject at this point. Going the top way around to get to Leopard Mountain is not ideal. The better, safer, nicer roads would be to go down, back, and head on to the N2 up to Leopard Mountain if you were to combine these two in one journey. All right, heading back to the presentation. Oops, sorry about that. So what's on the road? So as you're going from the different airports up to where Leopard Mountain is, there are lots of stops that you can do and recommendations you can make for your guests. So you could, coming from King Shaka, suggest for your guests to do some whale watching, dolphin watching seasonally, of course. Go for a walk on the beach, have a lovely cup of coffee on the beach. And that would be ideal in Belito and Salt Rock. From here, you'll go past the Richards Bay Airport, or Richards Bay is the town. Again, there you can, if you're flying into there, you would move past St. Lucia and False Bay. St. Lucia, beautiful stop in town if you want to have something to eat. And from there, you'd go past Phinda airstrip, still just only on the side. You obviously have to do a detour if you're going there, and then Mukuzi. So that's more or less the schedule of airports getting to Leopard Mountain in terms of what's closest versus furthest, and what would work for the itinerary that you are putting together. And not to forget that there are things to do along the way. It's not just you have to drive straight to the lodge. But of course, if you do want to have that experience, you could fly into Phinda or do a charter flight into Mkuzi, which means you'll be right close to Leopard Mountain to be able to enjoy your high tea before going on your first game drive of the day. Fast facts for Leopard Mountain. So they've got 9 luxury suites, and all of the suites, oh, there we go, are based on the hilltop like this. And you can see there's quite a nice space between where the different rooms are. So it lends a lot of privacy for the guests. And you can still enjoy the beautiful views from the hilltop. On the right over here, you've got the main lodge area sort of in the center. Behind this main lodge area, there are additional suites going that way. Then moving along, each of the rooms have their own private plunge pool. It's not a heated pool. It does have a dark interior, so it does retain the heat well if the sun is shining. But in the KZN summers, you don't want a heated pool. I'm sure you want to cool off in something that's a bit cooler than that. They also each have their own outdoor showers, so obviously indoor showers as well, but outdoor showers if that's the experience that you want. And yeah, beautiful space. Again, lots of privacy because there are that open spaces between the between the rooms or the suites. So really enjoying that outdoor space to its fullest. All of the rooms have hammocks, so quite a nice space to enjoy a glass of wine, read a book between safaris, or just relax overall. Then they do have a spa on site as well. They're the only lodge on the reserve with a spa. It's an Africology spa. And what is nice is they can either do spa treatments in the room or at the spa facility itself. Obviously, if you do need special equipment for the treatment that you want to do, you would need to go to the spa facility. But otherwise, they are able to come to your rooms. And then this is just the layout of the room so that you can see beautiful big beds that your guest would sleep on. You've got double basin bathrooms. To the left of this, you'll have your indoor shower. To the right, you'll have your toilet, which is completely separate to the basin area, and it has its own door, so lots of privacy there. And then you've got your lounge area outside. You can see the plunge pool and the shower again. As I mentioned earlier, they are fully solar powered. They've got Wi-Fi throughout the lodge, and they only allow children from 12 and above at this property. So again, you would have remembered seeing the different rooms. There is quite a big space in between, and with the lodge being unfenced within the Manyoni Private Game Reserve, in the evenings, going from the main lodge to your rooms, you are escorted. So you don't want to have a situation where the kids are in one room and the parents are in another, and they can't get to one another when they really want to. So they don't allow children under 12. And that's really because we want to keep it at that luxurious level as well. They also have received 1,000 excellent reviews on TripAdvisor. So I think that in itself speaks for what the lodge offers, the experience, the level of service, the quality of food. All of that comes from personal experiences from guests that have actually been there. Now, they've got amazing wildlife at Leopard Mountain. As I've mentioned earlier, it is Big Five, and they are very much focused on the conservation of the animals in that reserve. And everything is then funded by the lodges and the guests coming to the lodges at that reserve. So really knowing that your money is going towards a good cause when you are staying in this area. Experiences. So in your rate, you'll have a fully inclusive rate, which would be your accommodation, all of your meals, your drinks, and then 2 safaris a day, as well as your laundry. So the 2 safaris would be your early morning, late afternoon safaris. Then they do also have night safaris, evening safaris that they can do after dinner as well, which is at an additional cost. They've got the spa, which we've mentioned. They can do cultural tours and special occasions. Now, within the Manyoni Private Game Reserve, the reserve itself also hosts various experiences for guests to take part in, and again, very much conservation focused. So you can do animal tracking. That is not on foot, that is in a vehicle. Rhino walk swimming. So that's quite a nice experience for guests to be educated as to why some reserves choose to do this and others don't, and really understanding the current poaching situation and challenges that reserves across Africa are facing with regards to the rhinos. They also have the canine anti-poaching experience, so you don't have to worry, this isn't your guest. You are an outsider looking at how they train the dogs. And it's various canine training experiences. It's not just this very vicious looking attack that you get to see. It would include tracking and so forth. Times and places are all in who you share them with. You could also go to the Zululand Rhino Orphanage. This is where they rehabilitate baby
who you share it with.
Where the mother has either been poached or she's rejected the calf, or maybe they were sickly. They'll bring the calf to the orphanage, rehabilitate it so that it gets set free. It's not an animal interactive session, so you do not get to pet and touch and feel all of these baby rhinos, but you do get to see them. Your visit is over feeding time, so you get to see how they feed the baby rhinos, and your guests are educated as to how this and why this happens. And just a note, this beautiful dog and baby rhino that you see playing here, this is actually the reserve manager's dog just playing with it. Which obviously they always try to have a companion with the baby rhinos to make it less stressful for them. Then you could have your pangolin experience. So this would be a two-parter. If they do have a pangolin pup that they are busy rehabilitating, it's a beautiful experience where you go out to the reserve. You speak with the pangolin shepherd, which is the caretaker of the pangolin pup. And they again educate guests about why pangolins are the most trafficked animals in the world at the moment. What do people do with them? How do they rehabilitate them? And the challenges and victories associated with that. If they do not have a pangolin pup available, I would suggest you look at doing the animal tracking. If it is on their schedule to be tracking a pangolin for research purposes, that's an experience your guests could have. You can't always book this in advance because, of course, you don't know if they've got a pangolin pup available. But the guests are offered the opportunity when they are at the lodge if they do have one available. Then they've recently redone their vehicles. So you'll see on this photo, there's no middle seat in any of their vehicles. They've replaced the middle seat with a container for personal storage. So your camera, your jackets, your binoculars, all of that can go into that storage bin between the seats. The seats are a bit wider, so it's a bit comfier. Additional spotlights, so if you are doing your evening drive or late afternoon drive as the sun is set, you can see a bit more. And then they've got a softer suspension for your guest as well, making the trip just so much more enjoyable. Then they also have paramedics on site 24/7. So if I'm not mistaken, I actually do think it was one of the Cullinan Holdings consultants on a webinar asking whether the lodge has an AED machine, sorry, which they didn't at that point, but we took the comment to heart, and the reserve now has the paramedic on site 24/7, so really giving people peace of mind when they are in the area. The lodge does continuous updates. So they recently redid the pillows, the carpets, and some of the softer finishes. And as they see things are maybe aging or not fulfilling its purpose anymore, they will replace it and upgrade it and so forth. So it's a continuous process within this lodge. It's not something where they close the doors for a period of a couple of weeks and say, sorry, no guest, we need to do a refurb. It's a continuous process, making sure everything is all-weather road. So they do have a roads maintenance team, making sure that guests can enjoy their safaris irrespective of what weather we've experienced in the area. So that's really special as well. And then they've got a student program. So the student program is split in two. They've got the ranger side, so where you've got students learning how to become a game ranger, how to do the safari experience for guests, do the talking, explain things to them. And what is really nice is all of their students that have trained at Leopard Mountain have been employed. in other big reserves. So it's really amazing and a positive story for Leopard Mountain. And then they also upskill the local community. So in this specific instance, this beautiful girl here, she's now learning to become a chef. They do teach them to operate at that 5-star level so that when they are done with their course with Leopard Mountain, they're able to step into those shoes and gaining employment within the 5-star environment. They are in the process of being fair trade certified. It is not a quick process, as I'm sure you would know. It is quite a long process, making sure you're ticking all of the boxes, have all of the processes in place, but they are in the final stages. And then sometimes we do get questions, where does the conservation levy go? So you would have seen in these beautiful videos, the conservation initiatives they have, but they've also assisted the reserve in putting up 60 active cameras for anti-poaching. So using AI, facial recognition, and so forth to know that a vehicle or a person shouldn't be on the reserve if they aren't obviously listed. And then they've got 3 thermal drones patrolling the skies at night, again for anti-poaching as well, picking up any behaviors that shouldn't be there. And then I always like playing this video, which is behind the scenes at Manyoni. It's basically what happens that the guests don't always see and that they're not aware of. And it's just a feel-good video.
It's how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. I'm cranking up on the throttle, victory is mine. Show you the harder the battle, harder I fight. I've come too far to quit. Step back, I'm going in. I'm cranking up on the throttle. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. Like iron from the fire, getting stronger.
And on this very positive note, I'm going to open the floor for any questions. What do you do with a horn? Mel, I'm going to leave that question over to you.
So I
you
did
said
type
they're
a little
securely
thing there.
stored
Yeah, so they
off-site.
are removed off of the game reserve, and there is the easiest way to describe it is a safe somewhere in the sky that they get stored. Nobody knows where it is.
On the cloud.
Thank
Right.
you. That
Any
was
other
awesome.
There we go. Any other questions, please? Now's the time.
Anyone? Covered it great. So I think you did a very good job there. But no one got questions today, guys? No, everybody's very quiet. I think you got wonderful properties. So thank you very much for sharing it. And both your presentations were amazing. So kept us all intrigued. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you very much. Well, if there's anything, I'm always available, WhatsApp, email. Please do reach out. Whether it's for Leopard Mountain or fugitives, I'm more than happy to assist.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a lovely day.
Thanks so much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you.